Welcome to part 2 of the free Shopify abandoned checkout recovery with GoHighLevel course. Now, today we'll be covering some more advanced GoHighLevel settings, the Shopify developer app setup and integration, as well as the pipeline build out. Now, if you haven't already watched that video and you don't have a GoHighLevel account, I strongly encourage you to go back and watch part 1. I'll actually link that above in the card so you can easily go back to that video and watch that before watching this video, so it makes the most sense. Diving right in, we want to start at the agency level of your GoHighLevel account, and we want to go into settings and then into email services. Now, if you remember from the last video, this is where we actually set up our dedicated domain. But one thing I noticed is we never actually configured it to work with the specific sub account. So we're gonna go into location settings here. And then first off, we want to toggle on email verification. This is just going to make sure when you have a new abandoned checkout on your Shopify store and a new contact comes into GoHighLevel, it's actually going to attempt to email that lead. And if the email is undeliverable and there is a hard bounce, it's actually going to stop trying to email that contact in the future. So you want to make sure that's turned on to improve deliverability. And then what we want to do is click on the pencil icon. And we want to switch here to the newly created dedicated domain, which in my case is this lc.rstkd.com domain. And then just click on save. Once that is set up, you should see the domain here and this toggle should be turned on, and then we are ready to move on to the next step. Now we want to go into our sub account that we created for our Shopify store. So we're going to click here and we're going to click on that sub account. Once here, we're going to go into the settings area and then into phone numbers. You'll see the phone number I created in the previous video still has its verification in progress. I did create part 1 just 2 days ago, so this should be taken care of in just about a day or so. But what we're going to want to do is click on the 3 dots here and then click on edit configuration. Now, there's a bunch of settings here, but we want to work through them, and there's some decisions that you'll have to make. The first one is whether or not you want to forward phone calls from your newly created GoHighLevel number to another phone that you already have. If you want your cell phone or the client's cell phone to ring, I encourage you to use the Lead Connector app. The call quality is going to be much better in the Lead Connector app as opposed to having Lead Connector then call your cell phone through the cell tower. Now, if you do have a business phone that's a landline, or you have a secretary or staff that's going to answer the phone, then just input that number here. For me, I'm just going to leave that off and I'm going to be using Lead Connector. Next, for this setting, it really only applies, I believe, if you are using call forwarding. But the way that this works is if this is checked, it's actually going to show this number here on the caller ID when your office phone rings. Why that's helpful is because if you're getting a bunch of phone calls from random numbers, you're not gonna know if it's spam calls or if it's customers calling your Shopify store unless you answer it. So if you have this box checked, it's actually gonna show your GoHighLevel number on the caller ID. And that way, you know, whenever you get a phone call and it's showing this number on the caller ID, it's actually a customer calling you back from your Shopify abandoned checkout automation that we're building in this course. Since I'm gonna be answering the phone calls directly in the Lead Connector app, that doesn't matter. So I'm just going to leave this unchecked. And then this next setting, we're not doing anything with verified number. We didn't pay for that or set up that service. So I'm going to leave that unchecked for now. Next is this enable call connect feature. And this is going to require you to press a key to connect with your lead. This is really going to help with analytics, and it's also going to make sure that you're ready to actually take that call and speak with the customer when you answer it. Now, one setting that goes hand in hand with the call connect feature is the whisper message. I like to use this message here. I'm actually going to copy it from my other screen, and I will provide this in the YouTube description. But basically, it just reads call from contact first name, contact last name, number, and then it actually reads the contact phone number as well. And this is really helpful because sometimes the caller ID that's showing up on your forwarding number or on Lead Connector isn't working correctly. And this way it will actually read you the customer's first and last name that came directly from the Shopify abandoned checkout. That way you could address them by name, especially if it's someone who's been calling and you've been speaking with them frequently, and that's very helpful. Now, for the call recording, I would just leave this setting turned off. This basically is just another robotic voice that gets read to the customer, and it lets them know that the call is being recorded for quality and assurance purposes, or whatever you want to type here. For the incoming call timeout, I would recommend using 20 seconds. And for the outgoing call timeout, I would recommend using 30 seconds. Now, this last setting of ring incoming call to all users, I would just leave that unchecked for now because we're going to configure that at a later step. So with that, we'll just click on save, and our phone number is fully set up and ready to go. Now, to integrate Shopify with GoHighLevel, we're going to actually open up our Shopify store in a new tab, and then we're going to click on apps, and then we're going to choose this option, which is app and sales channel settings. Once here, you're going to click on develop develop apps. Now, I've already created private development apps, so I didn't have to accept anything. If you haven't done this before, you're most likely going to see this screen here, and you're just going to have to click Allow Custom App Development. You may or may not see this screen if you're not the admin of your Shopify store. Side note, if you are doing this for a client, just make sure that you have the correct permission to access all apps and to create development apps as well. And then you'll just click on this button. Once you do that, you should see a page that looks just like this. And then you'll just click on Create App and you'll give it a name. Now for the name here, I'm just gonna call it GHL for GoHighLevel. You could call it whatever you want. And then I'm gonna click on Create App. Now that I've created the app, I'm gonna go back into GoHighLevel and I'm gonna go over here to integrations and I'm gonna click on connect right here. And then I'm gonna enter my Shopify store URL. Basically, it is just this part of the URL. It used to be like rstkdvintage.myshopify.com, but now all the Shopify stores are using this admin.shopify.com domain. So you'll just capture or copy this part of the domain here. And then you will paste that here. And then now we need to get the admin API access token. And to get that, we'll just go into the app and we'll just click configure admin API scopes. And we need to make sure that it has at least read access for orders and for products. So I'm just gonna search orders here and I'm gonna give it access to read orders. And then for products, I'm gonna search products and I'm going to give it access to read products as well. Now I'm just gonna double check by clicking selected to make sure that read products is enabled as well as read orders. So you do have to delete that out of the search so you can see both of them, but you'll see read orders is enabled as well as read products. Then I'm gonna click on save here. And then for the webhook subscriptions, I would just set this to the latest version. Don't set it to a release candidate or something that's unstable. And also, if it's set to an old version of the API, it may or may not get deprecated or depreciated and stop working. So just set it to the latest version and you should be good to go here. Next, you'll just want to click on Install App and then Install. And here is your admin API access token. So you'll just want to reveal that token once, copy it, and then go into GoHighLevel and actually paste it here. Once you have done that, just go ahead and click on connect. In the past, I've ran into an issue where it said either Shopify or app password is invalid, but when I went ahead and refreshed the page, that pop-up disappeared and it was fully integrated correctly. So if you run into that issue, just try to refresh the page and see if the card looks like this. As long as it shows the Shopify store name, this checkbox, and the word disconnect, that means it's connected and you're good to go. Just make sure that this setting is enabled. Now, moving on to create the pipeline, we're going to click on go back and then we're going to go into opportunities and then into pipelines and we're going to create a new pipeline. I would just call this Shopify abandoned checkouts. And then you can add the following stages here. I like to add emojis, but the first one will be abandoned checkouts. The next one will be $500 plus checkouts. You can actually change this value. What I would do is just actually put anything that's higher value and that's above your AOV. So for my client, the AOV was around $300. We were actually putting 500 plus just because it's higher than the AOV. We want to give them more attention. Maybe we want to manually call those leads, see if we can answer any questions and get them to convert. And then we'll add the next stage, which is going to be hot leads. And then we can add this one, which is receive discount code. And let me actually copy the emoji. And then we're gonna add in trigger link clicks. And then we're gonna add order placed. And we're gonna leave all of these on for the pipeline or for the pie chart as well as the funnel setting. And then we're gonna leave this checked for visible in funnel chart as well as visible in pie chart. Now, what this is going to allow you to do is actually see people flow through your automation and see what step they're actually at. So it's really important to have this set up properly so you can see it inside of the dashboard as well as inside of your opportunities list. How this is gonna work is when someone abandons a checkout on your Shopify store, they're gonna flow into this section. Any abandoned checkout that's over $500, they'll show up in this section. Anyone who replies to one of your messages is gonna go into hot leads. Once they receive a discount code via our automation because they replied to us, they'll get moved to this step. If they click on any trigger link to actually go back and complete their purchase on your Shopify website, they'll get moved to this step. And then once they place their order, they'll show up here, but they'll briefly be removed and they'll also be added into the one step as well. So this is gonna allow you to track everything as they move down that funnel as well as see everything in a beautiful pie chart. On top of that, it is going to create this opportunities board, and this is actually going to show cards for each one of your leads that come through. And there's going to be the ability for you to click call to call them from here, or to open up the conversation inbox where you're going to be able to see all of the emails and text messages, both inbound and outbound, to each single contact. And this is going to allow you or your client to really follow up with your customers with ease. One last thing before we wrap up. Restock Vintage is up for grabs. The entire business is for sale. All of its stock, the website, social media accounts, marketplace accounts, 360 pics, all of it. Now you might be wondering why I'm selling it. Well, I recently moved to Puerto Rico and it's super humid here, so I had to leave the stock back in the US. Many of these pieces are older than I am, with gold-plated details, and need to be stored in a cool, dry place. Now, I could store them here in a climate-controlled warehouse, but with Puerto Rico at risk of hurricanes and frequent power outages, that's not ideal. On top of that, Puerto Rico has a holding charge on the inventory that you don't sell each year, and shipping times from PR to mainland US add a couple more days. Now, this is one of the first ever e-com stores that I built, and over the years, it's really got shifted to the back burner and hasn't got the attention from me that it really deserves. I struggle with team building, and at this point, it's better for me to find a new owner who can operate it at its full potential. So with that being said, if you're into vintage designer sunglasses and you like fashion, this is perfect for you. Just comment down below and let me know that you're interested. Here is a brief look at some of the stock. So you'll see here there's a bunch of items. Some of them are brand new with tags. Other ones are just unworn dead stock without tags. But for each product, you'll actually see I have 360 pics. So a bunch of photos. I think it was 12 or 24 photos. I can't remember how many. Super time consuming to set up and take all these photos for each pair. It's something like 309 pieces. I think it's maybe closer to 305 or so at this point because a couple more have sold. But this is what is up for grabs. Mainly it is all sunglasses, but there are some jewelry as well. And with that, that is it for part 2 of this free course. Now, if you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll be there to help. If you did enjoy this, be sure to leave a thumbs up on this video to let me know that I'm doing a good job, and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next part of this free course. In the next part, we're going to build out all the automations inside a high level, and that is really the true power of GoHighLevel and this entire setup. So stay tuned for that, and bye-bye for now.